I want you to do something for me right now. It will only take a second. Look around the room you're in. If you're driving, maybe visualize your living room or that one specific drawer in your kitchen, the one.
Oh yeah, the junk drawer.
The jump drawer. How many things do you see that you haven't used, touched, or even really thought about in a year? Maybe it's a stack of magazines you swore you were going to read in 2019. Maybe it's a box of tangled cables for electronics you don't even own anymore.
The famous just-in-case box. It's like a universal human archive of, I might need this someday.
Exactly. And, we all do it. It is fundamentally human to keep things. We attach memories to objects, we find comfort in having resources. But today, we are heading into territory that is much deeper, much more complex, and frankly, much darker than a messy junk drawer. We are asking a difficult question. When does keeping things just in case cross the line? When does it stop being messy or sentimental and start being a medical crisis?
It's a question of where that line is drawn.
Uh,
On one side, you have clutter, which is, annoying. But on the other side, you have hoarding disorder, which is a condition that rewires the brain, destroys families, and creates genuine threats to life and safety.
So today we are doing a comprehensive deep dive into hoarding disorder, or HD, and the mission today is very specific. We want to move beyond the shock value. We've all seen the reality TV shows, the dramatic music, the hazmat suits, the screaming matches in the front yard. It's so easy to gawk at that.
Mm,
But the reality of HD is so much more nuanced. It involves neurobiology, deep-seated psychological distress, and safety issues that most people never even consider.
right. We need to
Yep.
strip away the judgment and then look at the mechanism. We need to move from look at this mess to look at this mind.
To help us navigate this, we have a really fascinating stack of sources today. We are pulling from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, to get the official psychiatric definitions.
The clinical side of things.
Yeah, exactly. We've got neuroimaging research from Kyushu University looking at the actual structure of the brain, literally what is happening in the white matter. We have guides from the International OCD Foundation.
And perhaps most importantly, for the practical side of things, we're leaning heavily on the work of Dr. Salem.
Yes, Dr. Salem. This is a name you're going to hear a lot today.
Dr. Salem is a general practitioner and an educator, and his guidance for primary care doctors is, frankly, a gold standard in understanding this condition. He bridges the gap between the abstract psychiatric definition and the reality of a patient sitting in a doctor's office.
Right.
He offers a very compassionate, safety-first perspective that frames the way we're going to talk about this.
So let's jump in. I want to start with the context because I think this is where a lot of us get confused. I have friends who call themselves collectors, but their houses are packed. I mean, wall to wall, where is the line? Because let's be honest, homes are getting bigger, right? We have more space than ever before.
We do. It's an interesting paradox to start with. You look at the data, the median single-family home in the U.S. has jumped from about 1,500 square feet in the 1970s to over 2,200 square feet today.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
It's a massive increase in living space. And yet, despite having more room than any generation in history, about 10% of Americans still rent off-site storage units.
So we have filled the bigger houses, and now we are paying rent for our overflow stuff.
Exactly. We live in a culture of aggressive consumerism. More is the default setting. Normal accumulation and pathological hoarding is blurrier than it used to be.
So just having a lot of stuff doesn't make you a hoarder.
No, it just makes you a modern participant in the economy. But there was a fascinating study published in Psychology Today by Nordsletten and colleagues back in 2013 that really tried to pin this down scientifically.
This was the study that actually compared the two groups directly, right?
Yes. They took 29 diagnosed hoarders and compared them against 20 self-identified collectors. They wanted to see if there were measurable, objective differences in how they operated.
And they found 12 specific differences. I want to unpack these because this is where the aha moment happens. It's not just about the volume of stuff, it's about the relationship to the stuff.
Absolutely. Let's start with the first big one. Selectivity versus indiscrimination.
Mm.
If you talk to a collector, what are they usually doing?
They are hunting. They are looking for that one specific thing. My uncle collects vintage comic books, but only Marvel and only Silver Age. He's not buying Archie comics.
Exactly. Collectors are curators. They filter. The study found collectors usually focus on around 6 specific types of items, max. We have a theme.
A focus.
A focus, yes. But when they looked at the hoarding group, the acquisition was indiscriminate. They averaged around 15 different categories of items, but often it was just everything.
So there's no filter, no curation.
No filter. It was accumulation for the sake of accumulation. It wasn't, I need this specific stamp to complete my set. It was, I need this newspaper and this broken toaster and these plastic bags and this junk mail.
So a collector hunts for the right thing, and a person with HD just hunts for things.
Which leads directly to the second difference, planning versus impulsivity.
Okay.
Collectors generally plan their acquisitions. They save up for that rare coin. They know exactly where it's going to go on the shelf before they even buy it.
It's a deliberate act.
Very deliberate. In the hoarding group, this study found a much higher rate of compulsive shopping, 35% versus only 10% in collectors.
So it's an impulse control issue. It's not about the thing, it's about the act of getting the thing.
It's a dopamine hit.
Right.
It's the thrill of the acquisition, not the long-term appreciation of the item. And that lack of planning bleeds into the use of space factor.
This is the visual difference, the one we see on TV.
This is the difference between a museum and a landfill. Collectors, even the intense ones who have thousands of items, usually limit their items to a specific room or case.
Right, they want to show it off.
They want the items to be seen and admired. They are proud of them. In hoarding disorder, the items consume the living space. We're talking about clutter that takes over the bed so you can't sleep in it. It takes over the kitchen table so you can't eat on it.
The study actually had a stat on this, didn't it?
They did. 80% of the hoarding group reported excessive acquisition ruined their living space compared to the collectors who generally maintained order. The hoarder is essentially evicted by their possessions.
That sounds incredibly isolating. I mean, if you can't use your kitchen, you aren't hosting Thanksgiving.
And that is the social impact. This is another one of the 12 differences. Collectors tend to have strong social lives. They join clubs, they have friends who share the hobby, they go to conventions, they are often married.
It's a social lubricant, in a way.
It can be. But the study showed people with HD suffer from severe social isolation. They are far more likely to be unmarried and have significant impairment at work. They can't function.
So collecting connects you to people, hoarding separates you from them.
That is a very powerful way to put it.
Uh,
But I think the most heartbreaking difference, and the one that really challenges that reality PD narrative, is the emotional component.
right. On TV, they act like they love the stuff. They fight to keep it.
They fight to keep it, yes. But that doesn't mean they enjoy it. The study found that for a collector, the process brings joy. They love showing you their collection. For someone with hoarding disorder, the clutter brings distress,
Distress.
immense shame. They hide it, they don't want you to see it. It's a source of constant anxiety and guilt.
So they are living in a prison of their own making, and they hate the prison.
They hate the clutter, yes. But, and here's the paradox, the idea of discarding it distresses them even more. They are trapped between the shame of living in it and the terror of letting it go.
The final big difference you mentioned was identity. How do they see themselves?
It's fascinating. 100% of the collectors identified as collectors. It was part of their identity,
Makes sense.
but only half of the hoarding group saw themselves that way. The other half couldn't or wouldn't label it. They just saw it as their life. There's often a lack of insight into the condition itself.
That distinction, joy versus distress, really changes how you view the person. It's not a lifestyle choice, it's a struggle. Which brings us to the diagnosis itself. I was surprised to learn that hoarding disorder wasn't always its own distinct thing in the medical books.
That's right. For a long, long time, the medical community viewed hoarding primarily as a subtype or a symptom of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Right.
You'd see a patient hoarding newspapers and think, okay, this is a compulsion, like washing hands. It was seen as just one possible manifestation of OCD.
But the DSM-5 changed that.
Yes, the DSM-5, which is the Bible of psychiatric diagnosis, made a major shift. They separated hoarding disorder into its own distinct category under the chapter Obsessive Compulsive and Related Disorders.
So it's related, but not the same.
Exactly. A cousin, not a sibling.
Why the breakup? What made them realize it wasn't just OCD?
It comes down to the motivation and the emotional connection. The American Counseling Association points this out clearly. In classic OCD, the rituals, like checking the lock 10 times, are usually done to prevent something bad from happening.
Right, it's anxiety driven. If I don't check the lock, my family will be hurt.
Precisely. But the person doesn't enjoy the lock. They don't have an emotional relationship with the door handle. They usually hate the ritual.
They just have to do it to quiet the brain.
Exactly. But in hoarding disorder, there is a distinct emotional attachment to the object. They aren't saving the newspaper just to prevent a catastrophe, though that fear can be part of it. They often genuinely perceive the item as beautiful or useful or part of their identity.
So it's not an unwanted intrusion like an OCD thought. The thoughts about the items feel valid to them.
They feel valid, yes.
Right.
And importantly, in OCD, the distress is alleviated by performing the ritual. The compulsion brings temporary relief. In HD, the ritual of saving doesn't always make them feel better. It just postpones the pain of letting go. The clutter itself becomes a source of stress.
Now, I want to bring Dr. Salem back into the conversation here because definitions in a book are one thing, but clinical practice is another. How does Dr. Salem, from his perspective as a GP, define this for the everyday doctor?
Dr. Salem's definition is very practical and grounded in the DSM-5, but he adds a layer of empathy that is so crucial. He defines it as a persistent difficulty discarding possessions, regardless of value, due to a perceived need to save them.
Perceived need. That feels like the key phrase.
It is the heavy lifter in that sentence. To you or me, a used napkin is trash. To the patient, that napkin might be a memory of a lunch with a deceased relative, or they might see it as a potential resource. I can use this to clean a spill later. The need is real to them, even if it's illogical to us.
And that's a hard barrier to cross for family members. They see trash.
They see trash, and Dr. Salem is very adamant about what this isn't. He is. He explicitly states it's not laziness, it's a psychiatric condition.
That's so important.
It's crucial for families. It's so easy to look at a hoarded house and think, if they just cared more, they would clean this up. Dr. Salem warns us that this is a dangerous misconception. They aren't being lazy. They are battling a brain that is wired differently.
Dr. Salem also provides a don't say list for doctors and families, which I found incredibly useful. It's almost a script for how not to talk to someone with this disorder.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's so practical. He tells doctors, do not say you need to clear your house.
Which is the first thing anyone wants to say. Just clean it up.
Right. It's our instinct. But Dr. Salem warns that this shuts down communication immediately. It triggers shame, defensiveness, and that terror we discussed. The patient shuts down.
So what's the alternative?
Instead, he advises saying something like, I understand these items are important to you. I'm concerned about your safety.
That is such a subtle shift, but it's huge.
It's a game changer. It validates their feelings. These items are important to you, so they feel heard, not judged. But then it pivots to the objective reality, your safety.
It's collaborative.
It moves the conversation from, your house is gross, to, I want you to be safe. It's a partnership approach rather than an adversarial one. You're on their side, trying to solve a problem together.
Before we get into the brain science, I'm curious about who is actually getting this. We tend to picture the elderly recluse. Is that accurate?
That's the end stage. That's what we see when the crisis hits. But the research shows it actually starts quite young. Symptoms often appear in early adolescence, around ages 13 or 14.
Really? Teenagers? That's surprising.
Yes. But think about it. If 14-year-olds starts piling up trash in their room, what happens?
A parent comes in, yells at them, and cleans it up.
Exactly. The structure of childhood masks the disorder. The parents act as the external executive function. They keep the hoard in check. It's only when the person becomes an adult, lives alone, or perhaps suffers a trauma or loss that the behavior spirals.
So they lose that external check.
They lose that check, and the house fills up. It often isn't diagnosed until the mid-30s or even the 50s.
That makes total sense. Adults can hide it. They can stop inviting people over. They can isolate themselves.
Precisely. And Dr. Salem also notes some gender nuances. While the diagnosis is fairly split between men and women are more likely to present with excessive acquisition, active shopping, collecting free flyers, going to yard sales.
And men.
Men are often more passive in their accumulation. It's less about bringing new things in and more about just not throwing anything away, ever.
Okay, so we know what it looks like. We know the definition, and we know Dr. Salem's compassionate approach. But I want to know what is happening under the hood. What is going on in the brain of someone with hoarding disorder? You mentioned research from Kyushu University.
This is where we get into the hard science. The researchers at Kyushu University used neuroimaging to look at the brains of patients with HD, and they found specific abnormalities in the white matter.
Okay, white matter. For those of us who skipped biology class, what does that mean?
Think of the brain as a computer network. The gray matter is the computers, the processing centers. The white matter is the cabling, the wires that connect the computers so they can talk to each other.
Got it. So it's a connection issue.
It's a connection issue. The study found issues in the connections involving the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
That's a mouthful. What does that part of the brain do?
It's the CEO of the brain. It handles executive function. That means things like categorization, attention, and crucially, decision making.
Uh-huh. So if the wiring to the CEO is faulty, the brain can't make decisions.
Exactly. When you or I look at a piece of junk mail, our brain instantly categorizes it. Trash, unimportant, recycle. It takes milliseconds. It's automatic.
Right, I don't even think about it.
But for a brain with these specific white matter abnormalities, that categorization process is jammed. Every single item requires a complex, exhausting decision-making process.
So they pick up the junk mail, what happens?
They freeze. They enter a loop. Is this useful? Will I need this? Does this remind me of my aunt? Is it wasteful to throw it out? What if I need this phone number from 2005?
So they aren't keeping it because they love junk mail. They are keeping it because the brain can't process the delete command.
It's decision fatigue on a massive scale. Imagine if you had to make a complex moral decision for every single item you touched in a day. You'd stop making decisions too.
You just put it in a pile.
You just put it in a pile to deal with later. And later never comes.
And coupled with that executive dysfunction is the emotional regulation piece.
Yes. The Kyushu research and the DSM-5 context highlight that these patients attach intense sentimental value to objects. We know that 93% of hoarders believe items will be useful in the future. But it goes deeper. Discarding feels like losing a part of themselves. Brain scans show it triggers the same part of the brain associated with physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula.
Wait, so throwing away a newspaper literally hurts them.
The brain registers it as pain, yes.
Yes.
Similar to burning your hand or emotional rejection. So you have a brain that can't categorize well, combined with a brain that screams danger, pain, whenever you try to throw something away.
It's a perfect storm. There's no way out of that loop.
It's an incredibly powerful trap.
And it's rarely just hoarding, right? Dr. Salem mentioned comorbidities. It's usually tangled up with other things.
It's a very tangled web. Dr. Salem and the Bio1 sources note very high rates of ADHD, which makes perfect sense. If you have ADHD, you already struggle with organization and attention. Hoarding is almost a physical manifestation of that internal chaos.
And depression.
Yes, depression is very common, also linked to the social isolation we talked about. Anxiety is huge. And while it's distinct from OCD, there is still a significant overlap in many cases.
So you can have both.
You can absolutely have both. And interestingly, there's also some research assessing autistic traits in this population linked to that rigid thinking and difficulty with change.
So treating ADHD isn't just about the stuff. It's about treating the ADHD, the depression, the anxiety. You have to treat the whole person.
Exactly. If you just clean the house but don't treat the depression or the executive dysfunction, the house will fill up again. You haven't fixed the wiring.
I want to pivot to some specific types of hoarding, because as we said, it's not all just old newspapers. There is a type that is particularly tragic, and that's animal hoarding. We've all seen the news stories, 50 cats in a trailer.
This is often called Noah syndrome. It is distinct and incredibly difficult to treat. The definition isn't just having a lot of pets, it's keeping more animals than you can care for while, and this is the crucial part, denying that you can't care for them.
That denial is the scary part. I've heard of cases where the animals are sick or starving, and the owner truly believes they're the only one who loves them.
That is the savior complex. The psychology here is different from hoarding magazines. These individuals feel an overwhelming, almost messianic responsibility to protect these animals. They believe they are saving them from euthanasia or the streets.
But in reality,
it creates severe biohazards. Ammonia levels from urine can burn your lungs. Disease spreads like wildfire. But because of the delusional aspect of this subtype, the hoarder literally cannot see the suffering.
you can't see it.
Their brain edits the reality. They look at a sick, starving cat and they see a happy cat that is safe with them. It's a profound break from reality.
That is heartbreaking. And legally, this gets messy because the law sees animal cruelty, but the person sees themselves as a hero.
It's why simply arresting them rarely solves the underlying issue, though obviously the animal safety has to come first.
On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have something that feels very 2026. Digital hoarding, or e-hoarding.
Yes. This is an emerging field of research, but it's becoming more relevant every day. Wikipedia defines it as the accumulation of digital files to the point of stress and disorganization.
I feel called out. I have like 10,000 photos on my phone.
Many of us do. But the difference is the distress. Digital hoarders have a profound fear of losing information. They refuse to delete emails from 10 years ago, bookmarks, blurry photos, installation files for software they don't use.
They don't organize it, they just keep it.
They just amass it. And instead of buying storage units, they buy hard drives,
Or cloud storage.
or cloud storage, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a fascinating paradox here called the minimalist paradox. You might walk into someone's apartment and it looks like a minimalist, haven-clean surfaces, modern furniture, not a speck of dust.
But open their laptop.
And it's a disaster zone, a chaotic digital labyrinth that causes them panic. They can't find anything, they can't delete anything. It's the same psychological mechanism, the fear of losing something potentially useful, just transferred to a digital medium.
We should also briefly touch on fear-based or economic hoarding. This is different from the disorder, right?
Yes, very different. This is what we often see during crises. Think of the toilet paper shortages during the pandemic. This is accumulating supplies due to a fear of societal collapse or shortage.
So it's rational, in a way.
It has a rational, if sometimes exaggerated, basis. The distinction is the focus on utility during a crisis. Once the crisis passes, these people usually use or discard the items. A person with hoarding disorder keeps them forever, crisis or no crisis.
Okay, let's talk about the physical reality. We've talked about the brain and the types, but Dr. Salem and the Bio 1 Safety Guide make it clear. This is dangerous. What is the number one risk?
Fire is the absolute number one risk, unequivocally.
Is it just because there's so much fuel, so much flammable material?
That's part of it. You have piles of paper, clothing, flammable materials, often stacked near heaters or stoves because there's nowhere else to put them. There's a phenomenon called flashover, where the heat builds up so fast the whole room ignites at once.
What?
But the bigger issue is egress. Blocked exits.
You can't get out.
If a fire starts, the resident can't get out and firefighters can't get in. We've had tragic cases where firefighters couldn't navigate the home to save the person. They literally get lost or trapped in the hoard themselves.
And even if they get in, there's the structure itself.
The structural risk is terrifying. The weight of paper is deceptive. Stacks of newspapers and books can weigh thousands of pounds more than the floor joists were designed to hold. We see floors collapsing.
I hadn't thought about the weight. That's a huge issue.
It's massive. And then there are the biohazards. Bio 1 specializes in cleaning this, and their reports are sobering. Vermin infestations, mold, rotting food.
And it gets worse.
It can. In severe cases, if the plumbing gets blocked and the plumber can't reach the pipes because of the hoard, the resident stops using the bathroom. You end up with human waste being stored in bottles or bags in the home.
That's a nightmare. And for the elderly, Dr. Salem mentions goat paths.
Yes, that's the clinical term for those narrow little walkways between the piles, often just a few inches wide.
It's a tripping hazard.
It's a death trap for an elderly person. If an elderly person trips on a goat path, they go down.
Oh.
And because of the clutter, they might be buried under an avalanche of items, or simply not found for days because no one can see them.
To make this objective, Dr. Salem uses a scale. I love this because messy is subjective, but this scale isn't.
It's called the Clutter Image Rating, or CIR scale. It actually uses standard photographs to rate a room, which removes the subjectivity.
How does it work?
It's a simple traffic light system. Green, levels 1 to 3, is mild. The rooms are usable, maybe a bit untidy.
Okay.
Yellow, levels 4 to 6, is moderate. Fire hazards are emerging. Maybe you can't use the dining table anymore. This is where concern starts to grow.
And red.
Red, level 7 to 9, is severe. This is where rooms are totally unusable, there are strong odors, and there is an immediate risk to life. This is a safeguarding emergency.
And Dr. Salem points out silent symptoms too. Things you wouldn't connect to hoarding immediately.
Like malnutrition.
Malnutrition.
Think about it. If you can't reach your stove or your refrigerator is filled with rotten food, you stop cooking. You eat packaged snacks, you lose weight. Or respiratory issues from the dust and mold. And, of course, the profound social isolation.
So we have a patient. They were a level 8 on the CIR scale.
Yeah.
The family is frantic. They want to call a jump crew. Why does the IOCDF, the International OCD Foundation, say stop, don't do it?
This is the clean-out trap. It is the most common and most damaging mistake families make. They force a clean-out, they hire a skip, they wait until grandma's at the doctor, and they purge the house.
It seems like the logical solution. The problem is the stuff. Remove the stuff. Problem solved.
But remember, the stuff is just the symptom. The problem is the brain. When you force a clean-out, you are inflicting massive trauma on the person. It causes extreme distress, anger, and feelings of violation.
It's an attack.
It's like someone coming into your house and deleting all your photos and emptying your bank account.
Yeah.
It feels that personal and that catastrophic.
And what happens next? What's the result?
The rebound effect. Because the underlying anxiety and executive dysfunction haven't been treated, the person immediately starts hoarding again, often faster and worse than before, to rebuild their defenses.
And now they don't trust you.
You've burned the bridge. You are the enemy now. You've confirmed their fear that the world is a dangerous place that wants to take their things.
So, what does Dr. Salem suggest instead? A different approach.
He advocates for a harm reduction approach.
Hmm.
This is Dr. Salem's bread and butter. The goal isn't a pristine, better homes and gardens house. The goal is safety.
Just safe.
First, he assesses capacity. Does the patient understand the risk? Then he brings in a multi-agency approach. Fire safety officers, social services, mental health.
So, how does that conversation sound in practice?
Instead of saying, clean this room, they say, we need a 3-foot path from the bed to the door so the paramedics can reach you if you have a heart attack.
That seems much more negotiable. It's a concrete, logical request.
It's actionable and focused on safety, not aesthetics.
Yeah.
We need to clear the stove so you don't burn the house down. Most people, even those with severe HD, do not want to burn to death. They can agree to that logic.
And for the long game, there is therapy, specifically CBT-HD, cognitive behavioral therapy for hoarding. How does that work?
The Saginaw County Mental Health Source outlines this well. It's a long road, usually 26 sessions over 6 to 12 months. It's not a quick fix.
It's a major commitment.
It is. And it starts with motivational interviewing.
What's that?
It's a technique to help the patient find their own reason to change. You don't tell them to change. You help them see the gap between how they are living and how they want to live.
So you ask questions.
You ask questions. What are your goals? They might say, I want my grandkids to visit. You ask, can they visit right now?
So they realize, no, they can't. It's not safe. I need to change this to see them. The motivation comes from within.
Exactly. Then comes skills training, teaching them how to organize, how to make decisions. They literally practice. Pick up this item, you have 10 seconds, keep or toss.
Like a workout for that decision-making muscle in the brain.
Yes. And finally, exposure. This is the hardest part. Practicing the distress of discarding.
What does that look like in a session? I'm trying to picture it.
The therapist might have them bring a bag of items. They pick one, maybe an old receipt. The therapist asks, how anxious does the thought of throwing this away make you on a scale of 1 to 10?
And the patient says,
8. The therapist says, okay, let's hold it. Let's sit with that 8. They don't throw it away immediately. They wait. And eventually the anxiety drops to a 6, then a 4.
They learn that the feeling won't kill them.
Exactly. They learn that the anxiety is a wave and it passes. They habituate to the distress. And alongside that, they do cognitive restructuring, challenging those beliefs like, if I throw this away, I am a bad person, or I am wasting money.
It sounds like incredibly hard emotional labor for the patient.
It is. It requires immense bravery, and it requires immense patience from the family.
So if I'm a listener and I have a parent or a sibling who is struggling, what is the strategy? The IOCDF suggests family as motivators.
The first rule is move away from confrontation. Stop fighting about the stuff. The fight is the enemy. It just entrenches the behavior.
Okay, no more fighting.
Second, harm reduction. Set realistic goals. Let's clear a path to the door versus let's clean the whole room. Celebrate small victories.
And third,
Avoid accommodation.
what does accommodation look like here?
It means don't pay for their storage unit. Don't take the stack of newspapers they saved for you just to keep the peace. When you do that, you validate the hoarding. You say, yes, these are valuable.
That's a hard one.
You have to lovingly but firmly refuse to participate in the pathology. It's a tough one.
So no fighting, small goals, and no enabling.
And finally, empathy. Always empathy. You have to remember, even if it looks like a pile of trash to you, the distress they feel is real. It is a mental health crisis, not a character flaw. They are drowning, and the stuff is just the water.
This has been such an eye-opener. We've gone from the neuroscience of the prefrontal cortex to the practical, safety-first advice of Dr. Salem. It really changes how you look at that weird house down the street.
It does. It reminds us that behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath is biology, psychology, and usually a lot of pain.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. We live in a digital world now. We can keep everything, every email, every photo, every text. In a way, we are all becoming a little bit like hoarders, aren't we?
We are. The capacity to save is infinite now. There's no physical limit. And it raises the question, at what point does the potential value of a thing, whether it's a file or a physical object, destroy the actual value of our living space or our peace of mind?
Something to think about next time you hesitate over the delete button. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thank you.